AI has a lot of dangers with it. And today we're going to jump into some of the top issues that we see with AI, stuff that's rarely discussed. Everybody's in a hurry to jump into AI, and it can be a very powerful tool. Today we really have two goals: to help you understand AI better so you can assess the risks, and then hopefully if you're using AI or if you plan to continue to use AI into the future, you can help plug some of these holes to protect yourself. So knowing is half the battle. Today we're going to talk about some of these dangers that are rarely discussed. The first thing we see with AI is we really don't understand where the results come from, and we don't know if they're accurate. And I've been using AI here and there for a while now, been testing it, and I will tell you, my day job is I'm a lawyer, right? I do this channel for business education, but I spend a lot of time on the side of practicing law. And in practicing law, obviously, accuracy is generally very important, right? You want to understand what you're doing, you understand the law, and you want to make sure that you hit the various compliance boxes. So accuracy, having correct information is important. And one thing I see with AI is there is a general lack of accuracy, right? Not only do we not have transparency, we don't know what's going into that AI algorithm. We don't know what's getting fed back from it because it's going through its large language models and feeding answers to us. And because of that, we see a lot of inaccuracy. And as I've done analysis, I've looked at AI generated results versus the knowledge I already have versus other research I've done using primary source materials, going directly to the law, going directly to cases. You can see there's a discrepancy, right? The AI is not necessarily accurate, and it's often hard to trace. When it does give you information to trace, sometimes it's inaccurate. We'll talk about that in a little bit. The second big thing out there with AI is copyrights. And this is something that surprises a lot of business owners. I was just talking to some folks recently about this. That material that the AI is spitting back to you, you don't know where it came from, right? It generally relies on large language models. It goes out and collects a lot of information from a lot of different places. It doesn't necessarily understand the nuances of the law. And because of that, it might be collecting information from copyrighted materials. And in extreme cases, it may be collecting information from copyrighted material and spitting back to you something that's copyrighted, right? So let's say you have phrasing or a paragraph or information that exists in a copyrighted material, and it's been republished with or without license multiple places, multiple people have source to it, and the AI goes through and does its analysis and keeps seeing that information come up. Well, based on its learning and algorithm, it might think that that is important material. It might think that that is the answer to your question, but it may spit it back to you in a way that is still violative of copyright. So you need to be very careful, right? You don't know where this information is coming from. You don't know exactly where it's sourced. You don't know if it collected a lot of information and created something new, or whether it just copy and pasted something copyrighted. So you need to be very careful, especially if you're going to copy and paste what the AI gives you, right? You need to stop and think, is this good material? Has it been copyrighted? Can I use it in its current form? Number three big danger or risk we see with AI that is rarely discussed is bias. There have been a lot of situations where AI has gone out and done analysis, it's produced pictures, it's looked at different text, and you can tell that it has a bias. Either one way or another, it is spitting out information, right? We won't get into the depths of it here in today's video, but if you do some research on bias in AI, you'll find that even though it's a computer, even though it's analyzing text, well, you know, when you start getting into large language models, looking at lots of sources, obviously if there's bias everywhere, then that bias is going to get brought into there. But then also there is training and coding issues where the people that are training, coding, developing the AI are doing things to push it towards bias. And then obviously that means your results may not be the most accurate, may not be the most fair, could actually be problematic from a business standpoint if you're relying on biased software. Again, in my world of being a practicing lawyer, I just took a continuing legal education course where they talked about bias and AI in employment. And one of the real issues is you as an employer, if you're deploying a tool, could you be responsible for the bias of that tool, right? Your job is to comply with labor laws and to do things you need to do in running your business. And if you're deploying tools, even if they're AI, and those AIs are problematic under your legal requirements, you could have some real issues. So you really need to understand that bias, because not only is it just not right, but it can also downstream lead to you having issues with the work that you're producing. So again, this channel is not for legal advice. This is about business and running a business and understanding what's going on. But my legal world often informs what we're talking about here. I suggest you talk to counsel, somebody that's working for you, about some of these risks if you're deploying AI in sensitive areas like employment, mortgage, lending, investments, other things. Another big issue with confidentiality that is rarely discussed, another big issue with AI that is rarely discussed, and I just said it, is confidentiality, right? AI feeds all the information into the database. So generally, unless you're using very specific software to set up a very specific way, when you issue queries into the AI database, the mere fact that you're asking the questions could go into the learning model. That means any confidentiality could be blown, right? That AI system could either use your confidential information, could spit your confidential information back out at somebody, could use it for training, could be reviewed by a human that's looking at that AI. So you really need to be careful about the confidentiality side of things. If you're talking to AI and telling it things, is that information going to get into the wrong hands? Are you going to lose control of that information? Is that information going to end up in a place where you don't expect, because that large learning model is going to learn what you ask it? Another thing that we don't understand with AI, and this is the fifth danger that is rarely discussed, is information collection. Again, if you make a number of queries of AI over time, that AI system, if it's tracking what you're asking, is going to start to learn who you are, what you're asking, and the types of issues you're having, right? It will not take very long for an AI system to find out if you potentially have legal issues, if you have a challenge in your business, if you're dealing with tension in your personal relationship, right? It's very quickly going to dive into who you are and what issues you're having and what's going on in your world. So we don't understand that information collection side of it, and it poses a real risk to all of us that the information we have is going to be out there. What information, what risks, what issues have you seen with AI? I'd like to continue this series here on the channel, which is a reason for you to subscribe, but I also want you to comment with what you're seeing and what you're doing, because I want to collect this information together as we continue this journey. So I would love to hear what you're seeing. It may inspire future videos or future segments of videos. Go ahead and drop it below. Join me in the comments. Let me know what you're seeing with AI. Let me know if it scares you or if it's something you trust, and what specific issues you're concerned with AI. All right, guys, I'll see you for another video soon. Thanks for tuning in. Consider subscribing to our channel.